welcome back to another episode of A Recent Study Suggests, our final episode of the year, our 99th episode. We're your hosts. I'm Robert.
And I'm Sam.
And Sam, my eye won't stop twitching.
You say that, but every time you say, Sam, come look, my eye's twitching, it's not. So I don't know if I can believe you.
For the past, 3-4 days that has been twitching, and today it's been twitching the most. It won't stop.
So you say.
Yeah, I keep trying to... I had to be like very still, and I say, Sam, come over here. I feel like I had to whisper it to you too.
Yeah, there have been several moments where you've just stood in front of the mirror and you're like, it's twitching again. But it's almost as if you're speaking to yourself, like you're trying to convince yourself it's happening. Because I can't see, you're looking at you.
It's like, you know, in horror movies, when someone walks by and they see like a little kid just facing the wall, not moving.
Right.
I'm like that, but with mirrors.
Yeah. You just look deeply at yourself.
You walk by and catch me looking at myself in the mirror, but I'm looking at my eye twitch so I can prove, like, it's happening right there. I'm looking at it with my own eyes.
Like, I see you.
I see you, yeah. You might be trying to hide from Sam.
Why do you
no,
think
I
that's
see
been
you.
happening to you?
You know what? I have no idea. I think it just might be the stress of this podcast.
You're broken.
The stress of the holidays.
The stress of this podcast.
I'm broken. That's probably the most likely reason why.
There's got to be a study out there
Why
about
does your body twitch?
Yeah.
I think we have looked one up before. It's kind of just like,
involuntary,
it just happens.
Involuntary twitching.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just
Spasms.
old.
It just happens.
You don't get spasms as a kid.
Yeah, you do.
No, not me.
Yeah, and it's super cool. You always around your friends, like, oh, look, it's always like in between your thumb and your pointer finger. It was like, look, it's twitching right there.
You know, you're right. When I was younger, I used to show people, like, look, my thumb is twitching. That was always so fun to show them my twitching thumb.
It always is, isn't it?
Why is it always the thumb?
I think so too. Like, it is fun. I don't know why it's always the thumb, but it is really fun to show people, like, hey, look, I'm twitching. I'm moving, but I'm not moving.
Other than your eye, where do you think is the coolest place you've twitched before?
Ooh, I feel like I've twitched like my ankle. Even earlier today, I twitched. My ankle was twitching.
Nice.
Yeah.
You didn't show me.
I didn't show you because it happened so fast. And
Ooh.
I feel like I was already on thin ice with you in my eyes. I'm like, if I mentioned my ankle to her, she's not going to believe me. Even less. You can believe me even less and just ignore me completely. When I say, hey, look, come here, look at my eye. It's twitching.
Hasn't your chest twitched before?
I think so.
I feel like you've shown me. You've done the thing where you have to stay very still and you're like, look, Sam, and you pointed to it. I think that's probably the coolest place that you've twitched. A chest twitch.
Do you have a coolest place where you've twitched?
Probably not. No, like an eyebrow, my lip.
Pretty normal.
Yeah.
Ordinary. A little boring.
Pretty boring, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe my booty. No, that's more of a twerk.
Gosh.
Because I can do that.
You can't do that.
I can so do it.
No, I try to get you to do it and you won't do it. Oh, you can't do it. You've tried. But you can't.
Why has this turned into you making me feel bad?
Because you can't twerk. Look, what I was saying earlier.
Is an eye twitch just an eye twerk?
I wish you would twerk. But 99th episode. This is it.
Yeah. 99.
Next one will be 101.
101. And why are we ending the year on 99? Because we want to start 2023 at 100. That just sounds cool to me.
Yeah, we talked about, like, should we end the year at 100 or should we begin the year at 100?
Yeah. I think it's starting the year off at a good point. Like, if we started at 101, that doesn't feel as cool. New year. New
Same
milestone.
podcast.
Yeah. New year, same podcast. Yeah. Also, the little break between this episode and 100 is so that your eye can stop twitching. Because you said it's stressing you out.
Yeah, it is stressing me out. What I was saying earlier, too, where you just catch me in front of the mirror just staring blankly at myself, it pretty much puts me in an awkward position. I feel like it also puts you in an awkward position.
Yeah, because you don't speak much either. So there's no context. I get nothing but you staring at yourself.
Yeah, because I'm like inches away from the mirror.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to deal with it. And in the spirit of that awkwardness and in the spirit of the holidays, we thought family's going to be gathering. We've already had the conversation starters of, why do people like to be called daddy? You bought a daddy shirt.
I did.
You did buy a daddy
Way
shirt.
to take away my announcement.
I just remembered that right now.
I said I would do it. I didn't buy the shirt that says Daddy's Little Daddy because it sold out.
But it didn't even make any sense.
But I did buy a shirt. It's a nice one. It's a button down. It's
classy. You're a classy daddy.
Yeah, embroidered the word daddy on the chest. It's coming.
Oh my gosh. But either way, we talked about that. Now, there's going to be a lull in the conversations, and this is where like the worst part of it, of the family gatherings, comes into play, where it's awkward conversations that you're going to have with your family during the holidays. But before we get into it, why don't you tell everyone what a recent study suggests about Sam?
Well, as the name would suggest, we talk about recent studies. We find topics that we think are relatively interesting, and likely there's a study out there. So we find them, we talk about them, we turn them into conversation starters, and hopefully make our lovely listeners and each other a little bit smarter.
What do you think about awkward conversations?
What a strange question.
Would you describe it as awkward?
That was a bad conversation starter, by the way.
Would you describe it as an awkward question?
How do you feel about awkward conversations? What does that even mean?
I'm just trying to get into awkward conversations.
Ask the question again.
So, Sam, I see that you've gained some weight, but how do you feel about awkward conversations?
How do I feel about awkward conversations? Ignoring the part about my weight.
You can't ignore that.
Obviously, what was that? You said something. What was that?
I'm just curious what you think of conversations, and that it's kind of hard to ignore your weight. I mean, everyone can see it; it's on display. But the conversations part is what I was wondering about. Like, what do you think about them? Like, sometimes they can be awkward, sometimes they can't be. It's all about how you go into it. And if you just like stare blankly at me,
start with my weight, then that's not a good place to begin.
I know, it kind of seemed like you started with your weight. But like, I'm just wondering about the conversations though, if they're awkward. And I don't think they have to be,
Yeah, you kind of make them that way.
They just kind of, I think you kind of do make them that way. And we just got to be familial. We got to be happy we're together. We're, it seems like there's, two of you right now, but
I think I'm just going to walk away. That feels good for me.
So positively is how you feel about awkward conversations.
I think any awkward conversation makes you just want to escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to deal with it.
Like it's not worth turning the awkward conversation to me into an argument.
Can you remember any specific awkward conversation that you've had with your family?
With my family?
Yeah.
With my family. I've tried to start awkward conversations with my family. I think it was around 2 birthdays ago. I thanked my parents for having me. And then I told my dad that I was grateful that his swimmers made it to my mom's egg, thus creating me. And he had a good laugh. And my mom just put her hand on her forehead and said, "Samantha." And that was the end of it. We did not continue that conversation.
Yeah, I guess that is pretty awkward.
I started that awkward conversation because I wanted to see where it went, to see if they would appreciate my sense of humor and if it would be playful or not. But turns out it was not.
So you were trying to have the sex talk with them.
I guess so.
Did they ever try to have the sex talk with you?
Ooh, good question. No. I think I was one of those kids that for whatever reason always knew about sex. I literally never needed an explanation because I just always knew.
Yeah, I mean, you were always kissing magazines of boys, kissing your hand, practicing your hands. I guess you kind of were always about it.
Jesse McCartney definitely, or at least his picture, was excellent for practicing my kissing on. And I'm not going to lie, I did practice on my pillow. I practiced on the worst pillow ever.
What does that mean?
Because it was not a good kisser.
Was it like a foam pillow where there's no bounce to it, or what?
No, it wasn't that it was a bad kisser. It was a fine kisser. What wasn't good about it was made out of like a faux silk kind of satiny material. And I would kiss it and try,
Little tongue action?
a little tongue.
Gross.
And I don't know if you ever licked a satin material, Robert, but it stays wet and it kind of gets stained, like water stains. So
you had a water-stained pillow that was because of you kissing it.
yeah. I don't know why I always had like satiny pillows because I practiced on more than one and they were both satin now that I'm thinking about it. I had a round one, a round pink one, and then I had my rectangular, regular sized one that I also practiced on. I was trying to be resourceful. That's all I had.
So you never had, I'm just going to keep going. You never had a conversation with your parents like, hey, this is what sex is. This is how you can be safe.
No.
Or, be careful or anything like that?
No, never.
It was kind of always like understood.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. My mom was always under this assumption that I would never have sex. So I think for her, it's if I don't address it, she won't know that it exists. And that's it.
It's kind of funny because you chide me because I don't normally get into deep conversation with my family. I was like, oh, this is surface level stuff. But this is arguably something that you probably should have had a conversation about with your mom, your dad, anyone really.
I mean, you're right.
An adult.
But am I going to initiate it? No. Like, I feel like that would be their role. Also, who says chide? What is that? How do you spell that? CHIDE?
There you go.
Why do I know how to spell it? And why did you just say it?
Because.
And why have I never heard this in my life before?
Because you get angry at me a lot.
Define chide.
Well, you punish me, or not punish me, but like you get upset at me. You admonish me. You.
Why'd you use another big word to define a small word? Admonish.
You just yell at me and get mad at me. There you go.
I get at you?
Yeah.
About you having surface level conversations?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you saying that you had the sex talk with your parents or your mom?
I don't know if I necessarily had the sex talk, but my mom gave me my first condom.
Nice. I remember that.
You do remember that.
You kept that for years. Pretty sure it expired too.
Actually,
condoms expire.
They do. I don't know if it did or not, but I ended up using just to like make sure I knew how one went on.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that I wasn't going to use it at that time. I'm like, I just want to make sure when the time does come that I do know how one goes on.
How old were you when she gave you the condom?
Oh, I don't know. We were, I think maybe, how old are you in 8th grade?
8th grade, 14.
14? Maybe around 14, 15.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to use it at that time, but I just wanted to make sure that I knew how it went on.
So you put it on as a 14-year-old?
I don't know if I was 14. Like I held on to it for a while just because I felt weird about it. It wasn't like, oh, here's a condom. The next day I'm trying it on. No, it was just I held on to it because it was a little awkward.
Yeah. How did she give it to you?
I don't know. Like she didn't. I don't think she sat me down or anything. I think it was like I was just home and she walked up and was like, "Here, like,
be safe."
Yeah, basically, like,
and then
you're
walked
safe.
Away.
Like I know you're at that age, whatever. Like something like that. It wasn't like a big deal where we sat and talked about it and was like, "Hey, this is how you whenever you have sex, be careful," and blah blah blah. No, it was just like, I don't know.
Even that was surface level. See, I'm right for chiding you.
A 30-second conversation. But even before then, she did talk to me about porn. Her and her friend, which also happened to be our roommate. talk to me about porn.
You said she did talk to you about porn.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I knew at this point. This was even before the condom, so I think I was a little younger.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But even then, I knew that porn was people having sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I didn't have a full grasp at it, though. I just knew that much. People having sex. I guess that's the main thing, right? But I always imagined it as like video or thing that you watch. That's what porn is. And once again, I was just, I don't know, playing video games. Probably. I have no idea. Just in my room, in my living room. Because we had a one bedroom and I slept in the living room.
Yeah.
And
so you were both in your living room and your room.
Yeah. And they called me over like, hey, do you know what porn is? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, basically, blah, blah, blah. And they mentioned photographs. That porn can also be photographs. And at this point, like I'm younger than 13, 14. I don't remember exactly. Maybe 11, 12. Wow. And at this point, I didn't know, oh, yeah, pornography can also be photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's kind of what I walked away with it.
Okay.
Just like, oh, yeah.
That's interesting to know.
It could be more than just what I thought originally.
And so did you seek it out after that?
No.
It was just that conversation and that was it?
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
so was that awkward for you?
It was, because I didn't know if it was like a trick question. Like, imagine your parent goes like, hey, do you know what porn is? You're going to think, should I answer honestly and say yes? Will I get in trouble?
Yeah. Did I accidentally look up porn and they're like trying to confront me about it?
Mm-hmm. Or do I say no and then have this explanation where like they know that I know that they know? You know, what do I do? So It did felt weird. Like, how do I answer this? And I just answered honestly. I'm like, yeah, I do know. But I guess I didn't. Because I didn't think about photography.
I guess that's... I don't know if that one counts. I guess it does count as an awkward conversation. We talked about sex a little bit. But in this study, there's over 2,000 people who were involved in it. They're talking about the most uncomfortable conversations to have with relatives. And for these people, it was about, mostly for them, it was about relationships or like very personal things about their lives, which, duh.
I think that this study is saying that people don't want to have deep conversations with their family.
Yeah, it's possible. Like they want to keep it surface level, like you with your family. Yeah, but I can understand it because it feels invasive, especially if, we're recording this around the holidays. You're probably seeing these family members once or twice a year if they have to travel. And you don't want to always be asked, like, hey, when are you having a baby? Have you found yourself a nice partner yet? Why aren't you married?
Whoa, did you put on some weight?
Yeah.
Sam? Yeah.
It's like you answered the question for me. And those questions that I just mentioned, those are all things that people in this study hate getting because over half of them, 57% of them, get those questions every single year.
Yeah, they're very like easy fallback questions. Just how are you, essentially?
Yeah. Which are not good conversation starters, but they go a little bit further, like, when are you having a baby? I hate that.
Yeah, imagine like how's work? That's
Good,
also something. Yeah.
But we luckily don't get questions like these anymore. Like, when are you having a baby? We used to get those nudges because your cousins were having many a child, and we'd get the nudge like, oh, when are you guys?
Many a child?
Yeah.
And you got on me for saying chide? Many a child?
It's fine.
So they were having a lot of babies and what?
And we got nudges like, hey, when are you going to have children? And we'd always say never, or I'd say when Robert can become pregnant.
Oh, yeah, you did used to say that. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Because I don't want that for me.
What if it does happen?
If you become pregnant?
No, in our lifetime, where men can somehow become pregnant.
That's fine.
And so then you would want to have a kid?
Oh, no. I'm saying it's okay if other men have babies.
No, but you said you would tell them, we'll have a baby when Robert can get pregnant.
Well.
So you lied to them?
What? Well, maybe it would be okay if you got pregnant in like 15, 20 years.
Gross.
But if you give birth to a baby, could you make it like 15 years old? So we get 3 years with them and then we kick them out.
No, I don't think I can do that. I'll try, but...
I wouldn't mind being a parent of a 15-year-old in 10 years. But they start off as 15. Not. Could you imagine the bad math? I wouldn't mind being a parent to a 15-year-old in 10 years. That sounds like I had a child 5 years ago in the past. That's bad math. Not what I meant, though.
But yeah, luckily we don't get that anymore. Our family's gotten used to us.
Yeah, because we answered so many times that we're not going to have children. Also, the marriage question, which is another one that these people in this study hate getting asked, is when are you getting married?
Do you ever think about getting married?
No. I think as a child I did a lot because I watched movies and that was, I don't know, I watched a lot of rom-coms, I guess. And marriage was just such a normal, regular thing that I was like, okay, that's going to happen one day. Because I used to tell people that I was going to marry Jesse McCartney.
Or Adam Sandler.
I didn't tell them that, but I thought it. I remember telling my first boyfriend that I was going to marry Jesse McCartney. And his friends would like tease and be like, ooh, you hear that? She said she's going to marry another guy. And I was like, yeah, so what?
Yeah, you're temporary.
This is my right now. Jesse's my forever. Like that. That's how I thought.
I don't think about getting married either, but I kind of do like the idea of having a party.
I know we've talked about that before. Like I would love actually to have a celebration of us where we get to dress nice and we get to have our friends and our family around, our favorite food, our favorite music. You could do your Philips Hue lights and we can make the colors change.
But also, doesn't that sound obnoxious? Like you're not married, but you want to throw yourself a reception.
Yeah, it does. But also like to me, part of the reason why I don't want to get married is because I'm like, well, I don't really want to spend all of that money for one day.
What if it's like in a backyard?
Okay.
Does that change anything?
Are you wanting to marry me?
No. Gross.
You did sound offended. You reacted the way that I react when my sister brings up marriage to me. Because I think we've talked about last names and she's asked me about your last name. Like, oh, what's Robert's last name? And then I mentioned how it's a nice name. And I'm like, yeah, it's a nice last name for him.
After like 15 years, she finally asked, what's Robert's last name?
She's said poor Robert before when I tell her that I don't want to get married. And I'm like, he's fine. It's
what?
Okay.
She thinks you're such a catch?
Ouch. Like she thinks that I don't love you or something because I don't want to marry you. I don't know. To say I don't want to marry you, that does sound mean. But because we know each other and our reasonings, it's not actually.
Mm-hmm. But the party might be cool.
The party would be cool if we had that money. But here's the thing. If we're going to have this whole party that's like getting married, why not just get married?
Because we don't want to. We just want the party of it. People bring us gifts.
Ooh.
People hang out.
People bring us gifts.
Yeah.
Gifts.
We could have like a honeymoon fund.
Oh.
Yeah. We could just make it seem like we did get married. So like people don't question like, why do you have a honeymoon fund if you're not actually married? We just say, oh, everyone just happened to miss the ceremony. And so everyone shows up at the reception. Like, oh, I must have missed the ceremony. But yeah, it makes sense they're having a honeymoon fund.
That's so much effort. And then to not actually get married.
That's no effort at all. It's just, hey, show up at this time. Just pretending that there's a ceremony. That's it. There's no like anything else. We don't have to
What would we
rent
call it
a
if
church or
not
anything. Whatever you do,
a wedding?
we would call it Robert and Sam tie the knot.
What?
Yeah, it's not a wedding. We're not saying we're getting married.
Why is your name first?
Sam and Robert tie the knot. Who cares what order it is?
Not tying event.
Not a tying event.
Yeah. We send them all Google
Sam and
Calendar
Robert's
invites.
not tying event.
snot tying.
It's not tying event.
Yes. That's actually not a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not tying event?
we'll think about it. Maybe it'll be our 100th episode.
Hey.
There's an
Maybe
idea.
not. KNOT.
Uh,
Found it. Give me that. Give me that knuckle.
I don't.
Just one knuckle, though. Not all. How many knuckles? We have 4 on each hand, right? Wow, was that a dumb question?
So most people don't enjoy small talk in general, and 41% of people feel awkward and embarrassed when relatives ask them about their love life. And then more people say, sex is a conversation that they want to avoid altogether during the holidays.
4 in 10 people want to avoid the sex talk. I want to talk about sex more.
No, you don't.
Truly,
No,
I
you
do.
don't.
I do.
You do
Let's
not.
normalize talking about sex with our fams.
Okay, bring it up. Bring it up with your family. Bring it up with my family.
Okay, how do I do it?
I don't know. You want to talk about it. You have time to think.
Hey, when was the last time you guys had sex?
You could ask that. Do you think either one of them would answer?
I think they would probably choke on whatever they're drinking or eating and then be like, what? And then I'd have to ask again and then be like, I thought you asked that. I'm not going to answer you. No matter who I'm speaking to, I think that will be their response.
Hmm.
And then they'll ask me, when was the last time you had sex? And I will be very honest with them because that's how you build connections.
So along with people's love life, politics and money are also the other like taboo topics that no one wants to get into.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. I think that talking about politics and money are far more awkward things to discuss than sex and relationships. Because then it ties into the way that you think and your very strong opinions. Because when it comes to politics, like there's lots of reason and feelings involved. And then money, I don't know, I feel like your self-worth is in that a bit. It shouldn't be because money has nothing to do with that. But for a lot of people, it does have something to do with it. So it's uncomfortable.
You brought this up earlier, but the way a lot of people cope and the way that this study suggests people cope with all these awkward conversations is to just walk away, not deal with them.
Yeah. Literally walk away. Yeah. I think it's funny that that's what they found in this study. Like, oh, if there's any topics you want to avoid, just walk away.
Yeah, go for a walk.
That's at
Don't be
least
near your family.
almost 50% of these people in this study say that these conversations start turning into arguments. So the best way to deal with it is just to walk away. But that sounds really funny because I like to think of it, it feels like it was forever ago when I used to work at a preschool. We would often tell kids to walk away. Like, just walk away. If they were upset, or if we were upset with them, but we didn't want to, vocalize how upset we were, we'd say, walk away.
That sounds so mean.
It does sound mean. But I feel like that's what this study is saying. Just walk away. Walk away. That's not how you deal with things. Like, what if you're in the middle of a conversation and you just walk away? I feel like that makes it worse.
I guess, but that would get the point across. Like, I don't want to talk about this ever. Yeah, I think maybe the solution is to just go get a drink. Go get an alcoholic beverage and drink your awkwardness away.
You're suggesting that people start drinking alcohol
I'm not
to
saying.
deal with awkward conversations.
I'm just saying that's what people do. That's what they do. 21% of people just walk away, but towards a drinks table, and get something alcoholic in their system. They numb the pain. It is very interesting. How do you have any idea how you would deal with an awkward conversation? Or do
Give
you
me a
just
scenario.
or do you just try not to make it awkward? Like you've had situations where someone has said something to you and you're like, "Oh, that's kind of an inappropriate question. How do you deal with it?"
Right. Okay. I can use an example here. I had a coworker not too long ago who I guess it had been a while since he saw me, and I looked a little bit different, specifically my hair, because I went from blonde to pink. And he asked me, "What made you want to do that to your hair?" And I responded with the pink. I just, I like pink and I wanted to put it in my hair. And so he said, "Oh, okay, so you're not like in a cult or something, right?"
And then you killed him.
I didn't kill him.
Oh yeah, right.
But-
He mysteriously disappeared the next day and hasn't been seen since. Wink.
Twitch. I twerk. How did I deal with that? I was like, no, I'm not in a cult. And I changed the subject back to work stuff because he made me very uncomfortable because I felt like he was just insulting me.
Yeah, I've never thought about anyone's reasoning. Oh, that person must have changed their hair because they're in a cult.
Yeah. That was just not okay. Not okay. That was just a question that he asked, and he said other things that also made me uncomfortable about my physical appearance. But I think that that's a good way to avoid an awkward conversation is to not make note of someone's physical appearance. You just don't do it. It's kind of like you don't ask a woman how many months she is without knowing first that she's pregnant. That would be very awkward.
Okay, I get it. So you haven't put on weight. You're expecting.
Robert,
That's the mistake that I made in the beginning of the podcast.
absolutely
that's
not.
why you were
Don't
so
put that
mad.
out there into the world.
That's
I
why
am
you
definitely
were
not
so-
expecting. And I did not gain any weight. Just more muscle in my guns.
Put those away.
I can't.
It's a little dangerous in here. We're in a small, enclosed space.
They're always out on display.
I had a situation in middle school where I kicked a door
Why?
just because. I have no idea why. I just did it.
It feels like it's such a random thing to bring up.
It's going somewhere, I think. I don't know how to describe these doors, but it's a door where like you have to push to open. Like
Like there's a bar.
like there's a bar that has to make contact like to unlock the door and then open.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those.
And a friend and I were walking up to it, and I thought, I'm going to kick it with my foot because my foot can reach up that high. Or I wanted to see if it could.
You were so flexible back then.
And it could. I kicked it. And as I did that, there was a teacher coming from the other side of the door from where I kicked it. Luckily, I didn't hit her. That would have been really bad
Oh
if
my
I did.
gosh.
But I didn't hit her. She was far away enough where, like, she was coming up the stairs. So she saw me kick it. Then she was like pointed at me, like, "You come with me." I'm like, oh, dang it, I'm in trouble. And
Ooh, Robert's bad.
I was a little like worried about it because I wasn't like a bad kid. I didn't get in trouble growing up. And she took me to her classroom, and I think another teacher was in there too. And like she was writing me up, and she was asking me like, "Why did you kick the door? What made you do that?" And I was being honest with her, and I told her, "I don't know. I just did it." I just did it just cause. And, she's writing down my information, blah, 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 blah.
Did she laugh?
No, she didn't laugh.
Was she serious the whole time?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe she was having a bad day because what you did wasn't even like bad.
And so like this whole thing for me was very awkward. And she asked me if I'm one of her kids. I was like, this was like in the middle of the year. She should know if I'm one of her kids,
Yeah.
I thought. This wasn't like, we're a few weeks into the school year. No, we were.
She doesn't even know if you're one of her students.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I think she was a math teacher. I'm like, no, I have this other math teacher. Like, oh, okay. Because if you one of my kids, so the math teacher that I had was like a pre-AP, pre-advanced placement. She taught the normies.
Regular? Wow. Jerk. So she's probably one of my math teachers. Go on.
You said it, not me. But she said, oh, you're not one of my kids. Yeah, because one of my kids would have made some excuse or would have really tried to come up with a reason for why they did that and like try to back out of it. But no, Mia was just like, yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I did.
So it ended with her complimenting you essentially.
But what she's like, oh yeah, you're not one of my kids. And then I asked her when she was all done writing me up, I'm like, okay, it's like, what happens next? I've never been written up before, so I don't know, like, what
this process is like.
What is this process like? He was like, oh, I'll send this to the principal and blah, 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 blah. They'll take it from there. I'm like, oh, okay.
And you started crying.
And then I left. And I think she said, like, I get a phone call or something. Like, they'll call my mom. And that never happened. Because I think that my honesty and, like, what I did, she threw that away.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like she ripped it up.
The write-up form.
Yeah. Your honesty made her feel bad for being mad at you. Even at a young age, you were convincing people to stop doing something that would kind of like harm you negatively.
Yeah.
Like this is, how old are you? 12, 13?
Mm-hmm.
This is 12, 13-year-old's version of you convincing a guy to not steal your bike as a 27-year-old man. You've been doing this your whole life. This wasn't that awkward of a conversation. It ended well for you.
But it did feel awkward to me because I said, I don't ever get in trouble. Like, what, you're going to write me up? What does that mean? Am I going to be, expelled because I kicked the door? You're going to make, I don't know. Like, I felt like I did something bad. What's going to happen? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to be sent to the army because I'm a delinquent?
Nothing ever bad happens to you because you're Robert.
It felt like it could have. Something bad could have happened.
But it didn't. You're so honest. See, this is why we need to be honest and have vulnerable conversations with people, like the sex talk. It needs to happen more. And what needs to happen less is awkward conversations about our relationships, politics, and yeah. Also, we were talking about this episode coming out during the holidays. To add to more awkwardness, the conversation of bad Christmas presents was brought up in this study. Like, how do you have that conversation? How do you deal with?
Oh, where you pretend to like a bad Christmas present.
Yeah. I've had to do that many times.
Ooh.
And I'm a bad liar.
I think that's really hard to lie because you can see it instantly in your face. You're excited about opening, and then it's like, oh, thanks. And you can try to fake smile, but the person can always tell.
Oh, yeah. Have you ever been able to tell that I didn't like a gift that someone gave me as I was opening it?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember any specific gifts right now.
Do I give off like clear signals of that?
I think everyone does. And I try not to make it awkward by specifically with you, directly telling you like, oh, I don't want this. There have been several occasions where you've gotten me something and I open it and I say, oh, I didn't want this though.
What?
Yeah. You bought me a gaming chair once.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
I opened it and I'm like, oh, I didn't really want this, Sam. I made a joke when we passed by it in the store. Like, oh, that's really cool. I want it.
I thought you were actually saying that you wanted it.
No.
Here's the thing, Robert. You can't say, oh, that's really cool. I want it. And then be upset when I get it for you.
I thought it was funny. Like, oh, I can't believe that there's such a thing as a gaming chair, like a thing that like, sits on the floor and it's like a rocker.
Sometimes your dry humor is too dry. I think you're being literal. And that was one of those cases. That I've been better about it. I don't think that that's happened recently. That was so long ago.
Yeah, I think where we switched to the system where we tell each other exactly what we want.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And there's no more second guessing.
I love that about us. I've had to open a lot of gifts that I don't want or need. And the way that I cope with that is I always start by smiling and I keep the smile. It's not like a creepy one though. But I'm smiling as I'm opening it because I'm excited. And then no matter what it is, I always react with, oh, and I say what it is. Not, I love it. I wanted this. This is great. I say what it is. And then I say, thank you. And then I keep looking at it and I like turn it around and stuff. I keep looking at it and I usually note one or two things about it that I actually think are nice. And then I move on. That's how you pretend to like a bad Christmas present. See, I just helped people avoid that awkward conversation.
Okay. Give me a dry run. You have a mouse right in front of you that's blue. Pretend you receive that as a gift. How would you react? How would you do this?
So I'm opening it. I'm smiling. And I rip through it. I see that it's a blue mouse. I don't need a blue mouse. I don't need a mouse at all. But I say, oh, it's a mouse. Cool. And then I turn it around and stuff. And I'll say, I love the color. Thank you. And it's not that I love the color. I notice that it has a color.
Oh, it's blue. Awesome.
Yeah.
The way you said cool made it obvious that you didn't like it. Like
Really? So I should omit the cool?
I think that you think that you can get away with it, but you can't.
Oh my gosh. Maybe I am a bad liar.
You can't.
Well, I did say that I'm a bad liar. The thing is, when I point out the obvious, then I'm not lying. So I'll just stick with that instead of just adding cool. Okay. There we go.
There you go. We can help
Teamwork.
people out too. Like this is
Teamwork.
if you get any gifts that you don't like, take Sam's advice.
Yeah. Always take Sam's advice.
And with that, I think that wraps up episode 99.
I almost didn't want it to be over. Like this was a really good conversation starter, even though it was a conversation about awkward conversations. It was nice. So maybe a good way to avoid having these talks that you don't want is to just go directly into it. Hey, how do you feel about awkward conversations?
Like how I did.
Yeah.
See?
But first, don't mention their weight.
What do you mean? It's like,
That's
hey,
don't ask, have you put on weight?
have you put on weight? But how do you feel about our conversations? You know? It's all right. We'll get through it together.
Yeah. I'm going to mostly ignore that. We had a conversation that was about 40 to 45 minutes long about awkward conversations. So maybe there's something there.
And we'll be back in 2023 with episode 100.
Yeah.
In the meantime, if you have your own studies, you can email them to us at arecentstudysuggest@gmail.com. And be sure to follow us on Instagram at arecentstudypod.
Or share us with a friend. That's the easiest way to get us out there and get the conversation started.
Until next year.
Bye.